Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. After the success of the new Superman movie, I've become extremely excited for Supergirl's film next year. As of right now, I have complete trust in Gunn's direction for DC because he handled Superman's character so well. Gee man, Superman may have been good, but what in the world does that have to do with Supergirl being the best film of 2026? Okay, look, I know the title is really clickbaity, but I do genuinely believe my claim. Or at the very least, it's the movie I'm the most excited for, and it's really not even close. Now, to make this easier to explain, I'm going to divide this video into two parts. The first will be to explain why I have lower interest for all the other big films coming out next year. Then I'll move on to why I'm specifically excited for Supergirl. Oh, and there could always be something like The Wild Robot or Everything Everywhere All at Once that randomly catches my attention when it comes out and becomes one of the best films of all time. But with that out of the way, let's go through all the big films of 2026 and explain why I'm more excited for Supergirl. So, obviously I don't think it's a complete slam dunk for Supergirl, as there are some films that have the potential to be better. But all the pieces really need to line up, and because there isn't much promotional material, it's hard to say if they truly compete or not. Okay, the movie that I think stands the most toe-to-toe with Supergirl is Project Hail Mary. Now, I read the book about a year ago and it was amazing. It's about a guy who has amnesia and wakes up lost in space. I don't want to share much more because if I spoil anything, it's gonna ruin the entire reading experience. Like, I'm not even gonna show trailer footage. And frankly, I think the trailer already reveals too much, like most trailers do these days. But regardless, I loved the story, which is why I'm extremely excited for this project. I also think Ryan Gosling is an amazing actor, and I really like the cinematography that we've seen from the trailer. Now, the only thing that makes me worried about the film is its execution of the amnesia storyline. Part of what makes the book so great is that you're exploring everything as the main character does. Most of the book is essentially an internal monologue that revolves around a single character. The prose of the novel is so well written because it perfectly displays all of the character's quirks and thoughts, and because of that you have this extremely deep connection to him. I'm a bit concerned about how that's going to be portrayed. That said, the directors are Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who've made films like the Lego Movie, 21 Jump Street, and were on the team for the Spider-Verse movies. They just haven't missed. There's certainly a way to translate this storyline into the film, and I full-heartedly trust the directors will be able to do that, but only time will tell. Next up is Spider-Man Brand New Day. Now, you know I'm gonna be there day one for Spider-Man. There's pretty much endless possibilities they can do with the story after No Way Home, so that really excites me. Now, my biggest hope is that the film revolves around Spidey taking down Kingpin. We know Punisher will be in it, and we know he's getting a television special next year. Born Again Season 2 will also release before Brand New Day. Obviously, it kind of looks like Kingpin is the direction they're going. However, I'm tempering my expectations on that, as Vincent D'Onofrio mentioned there are some rights conflicts surrounding Kingpin's use in film. It'd be great, like this would be like an awesome crossover, but I'm not going to be disappointed if the film is about something else because that's a legal issue, not a creative one. Now, because we know so little about the actual plot of the movie, it's hard to really anticipate anything. Obviously, I'm excited for whatever they come up with, but for now, I'm not as excited as Supergirl because we already know the emotional journey Supergirl will go on, which I'll talk about later. So essentially, they need to lock in and make sure they don't fumble the bag with Spider-Man, which, well, with Marvel, isn't surprising these days. Next is Sunrise on the Reaping. Now, I haven't read the book, but so far, I don't think any of the Hunger Games films have really missed. I of course love the original trilogy, and I was a big fan of Songbirds and Snakes, especially with how it showed President Snow's turn to villainy. Seeing Haymitch in the 50th Hunger Games really intrigues me as he's one of my favorite characters in the franchise. As for why I'm not as excited for this than Supergirl, I guess I'm just not as invested in this franchise. I suppose it's another case of not knowing what the film's quality will be until I see it, but regardless, I am still really interested in seeing it. The last project I think competes with Supergirl is The Legend of Aang. I am a huge fan of Avatar. I mean, The Last Airbender is genuinely one of the best shows I've ever watched. The world building, the character development, the style of animation, the fights, the comedy, I mean, everything about it is peak. Seeing the gang back together as adults is exactly the project I and many fans have been wanting. That said, the film does have a slight stain on it, unfortunately. Instead of having the original voice cast return, the studio has opted to bring voice actors closer in ethnicity to the characters. Okay, but was the voice cast ever a problem? This might come as a shock to some people, but voice acting is very different than normal acting. Obviously on a technical scale it's different because you're not bouncing off people's faces in real time. You also need to completely imagine the actions your character is doing because you yourself aren't making those actions. But even deeper than that, the ethnicity of a voice actor doesn't really matter as long as the actor portrays the character well. James Earl Jones voices Darth Vader, a white guy, yet his voice is the reason Vader's become such an iconic villain. I can't imagine his voice in any other way.
You are part of the Rebel Alliance and a traitor. Take her away.
Bruno Campos, who is not black, voices Prince Naveen in Princess and the Frog, and he plays the role extremely well. And Kratos, a Greek demigod, has been voiced by 2 black actors. Are we really gonna say we need to replace Kratos' voice because it would make more sense if he sounded traditionally Greek?
This is a load of barnacles.
Talent supersedes race, especially in a scenario where you can't even tell who the real cast is. You just assume you're seeing an African prince or an Inuit-inspired waterbender. Look, obviously you want to cast authentic voice actors in situations where accents or slang are important, but as long as the characters are being represented properly, whoever voices them isn't a big deal. And while the world of Avatar may be inspired by real countries, these are ultimately fictional locations with no set accent. The voice cast for the original Avatar series is perfect, and they should all be a similar age to what the characters will be in the movie. I don't know if this decision was solely made to get a few brownie points on Twitter, but no matter how talented the new crew might be, the voices will be different, and that is certainly cause for concern. I know I just went on a mini rant about this, but if the new cast locks in and the story is great, then I'll probably forgive the change in actors since it's, again, a relatively minor issue compared to a lot of other issues a project could have. Yeah, so these next 2 projects I'll mention are definitely gonna be my biggest hot takes. I am not that interested in seeing The Odyssey or Dune Messiah. Now, from a technical standpoint, these will probably be the best of 2026, meaning I think they'll probably have the best visuals and cinematography. After all, Christopher Nolan and Denis Villeneuve are known for them. However, I've had a bit of a problem with their most recent projects. Tenet and Oppenheimer focused a bit too much on diverting timelines and honestly confusing narratives. I'm a bit more forgiving with Tenet because even though the story's a mess and doesn't make any sense, that's at least sort of the point with the inverted entropy thing. With Oppenheimer, I thought that was completely unnecessary. There's like 3 different parts of the timeline we visit, and we go by them so fast, we don't really have enough time to connect with the characters or the weight of this story. Oppie cheating on his wife was all but forgotten the scene after it happened. Anyways, it's because of that I don't really care about the Odyssey. I mean, I never really cared about that part of Homer's story anyways, but so far there hasn't been anything to convince me that this movie will be this crazy cinematic masterpiece. I don't even think a great cast necessarily means the movie will be good either. I mean, look at Barbie. And don't even get me started on Dune. Personally, I found Dune to be really boring. I haven't even watched the second one. There's pretty much zero reason for me to care about any of the characters outside of exposition stuff like, oh, Paul's the chosen one, or oh, the bad guys are about to invade. Those are not character motivations. Those are plot details. I couldn't tell you why Paul cares about the Fremen. I couldn't tell you what the personal stakes for Oscar Isaac or Zendaya's characters are. I guess some of the characters want power, but why? Like, what's their internal reasoning for doing so? I'm sure the books are great, but I felt like I had to read them in order to understand anything in the movie. I don't even remember anyone's name outside of Paul Atreides. And none of that would even matter if the movie was at least mindless fun. But it isn't. It's mostly just people having conversations or staring at stuff. Your movie should never require outside knowledge or a sequel to be enjoyable. Oh, and just for the record, I loved Andor, which barely has action or comedy in it. It can have a slow pace, but the writing is so well done, I'm invested in every second of the show. Even extremely mundane things like an awkward dinner.
I have a different plan in mind. But when I say the word plan, that makes it sound optional, which is not the impression you should be taking away.
There's a difference between trusting your audience and not explaining anything. I feel like Dune, unfortunately, falls into the latter. So, no, I'm not interested in Dune Messiah. So, pretty much every other film of 2026 has a very slim chance of beating Supergirl in terms of quality. I'm interested in Mando and Grogu, but it's Lucasfilm. Dropping the ball is their slogan. Toy Story 5 is even more unnecessary than Toy Story 4, but the iPad Kids angle could be an interesting avenue to explore how toys function in a modern environment. Clayface could be good, but there's literally zero things for me to go off on. A horror film revolving around Batman as a villain is a great concept, but for now, I don't have any interest in seeing this film because even this hypothetical I brought up about Batman isn't confirmed to be a part of the movie. But this now leads me to... Let's go down the list of projects that just look like corporate slop. Shrek 5, Ice Age 6, Hoppers, Cat in the Hat, Minions 3, Jumanji, a live action Moana.
Now put that thing back where it came from, or so help me!
And lastly, Avengers Doomsday. Guys, I have so little faith in this movie. The biggest reason people go and watch Avengers movies is to see all their favorite characters team up and interact with each other. And when you have a villain like Loki or Thanos to really push our heroes, it gives the entire film an immense sense of gravitas. There are absolutely zero characters I care about going into Doomsday. And why should I care about them? The MCU hasn't had any sense of direction since Endgame, and therefore all the characters now are either boring or a shell of their former selves. Sure, Marvel hasn't been complete dog water as of late, aside from Ironheart, but just being okay doesn't cut it anymore. If you want to see my full review of Fantastic Four, you can pause to read my post. But to sum it up, the movie needed to make me care about Marvel's first family, and I'm sorry, I just don't. That is extremely problematic when Mr. Fantastic should theoretically be the main hero of the story. Doomsday feels like it's going to be really rushed and bloated, which is not going to work when most of the characters haven't even met each other. Will the movie be complete trash? Probably not. But as of right now, I have no interest in seeing this film in theaters because it just seems like a last-ditch corporate attempt to save the brand. And for me, it isn't working. Secret Wars will probably be the last mainstream Marvel film I pay attention to, outside of, Spider-Man and Daredevil stuff. Well, I guess that's it. There are no other films in 2026 I'm interested in. I could have sworn I missed one. Was it? No. Is it? No. Oh wait! Coyote v Acme releases next year. Never mind, guys, this video is a complete scam because that movie will be way better than Supergirl.
You could not live with your own failure. Where did that bring you? Back to me.
But with that, let me go over why I'm really excited for Supergirl.
There's more where that came from.
Now, even before Superman released, Supergirl was my most anticipated project in the DCU. And that's for good reason. Okay. That may be a factor involved, but there are genuine reasons I'm excited about this film. While the concept of what Superman should be has been a topic of conversation as of late, we've had many different versions of him throughout the decades. And more importantly, we've had many comic-accurate depictions, from Christopher Reeve to David Cornsweet, and my personal favorite, Tyler Hoechlin. Man, Superman and Lois is an amazing show. Y'all gotta watch it. Now, I'm not gonna claim to be an expert on Supergirl's lore. To be honest, I've had a pretty surface-level experience with the character, but that's probably why I'm excited to see this movie. Really, the most exposure I've had to the character was in the Arrowverse, which was like... has so many problems.
You can't touch me without hurting yourself.
That's why he brought me. No touching without consent.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yeah, the show wasn't very good. Look, I thought Melissa Benoist was a great casting choice, and she did the best with the material she was given. I especially enjoyed her in the crossovers. But outside the already poor writing and forced political statements, this isn't really a faithful version of the character. For a long time, I thought Supergirl was just a gender-swapped version of Superman, which is basically what Melissa Benoist was. But she's a much deeper character than that. Clark is such a hopeful character because he grew up his entire life on Earth. Sure, he might have been born on Krypton, but he has zero memories of it. He might as well be human, and it's his immense love for humanity that makes Superman such an inspiring figure. Kara, on the other hand, grew up most of her childhood on Krypton. She had to witness the entire death of her people and everyone she was close with. She still retains all her memories of her home. Because of this, Kara is a much more conflicted character, at least in her early years. Having been forced to leave her planet, she often feels disconnected with humanity. It'd be like if any of us had to flee our country and live elsewhere. It'd be really hard to adjust, especially with a language barrier, and there'd be a strong sense of trying to keep your culture alive or even outright denying the one in your new country. That kind of pain is extremely difficult since you're having to choose between killing your old self to feel included or keeping your roots but feeling like an outcast. This is the aspect of Supergirl that really connects with me because despite her past, Kara is able to turn her life around and be the hopeful figure everyone looks to. Sure, her journey might have been different than Clark's, but it's this journey of self-discovery that makes Supergirl a deeply layered and ultimately hopeful character. And there just haven't been that many versions I've seen that get this, at least in the more mainstream stuff. As I already mentioned, Melissa Benoist's character was just a gender-swapped Superman. Legion of Superheroes sort of did this, but the movie was just mid. There was more emphasis on Kara's romance with Brainiac 5 than her actual character. I haven't seen the 1984 Supergirl film, but I've heard that movie's horrible. I haven't seen many of the older animated shows, so I can't comment on the one she was in. Really the only one that comes to mind that seems to have done Supergirl well was My Adventures with Superman. But my family deleted our HBO Max account a while ago, so I have not seen that show. All of this is to say, I'm dying to see an accurate version of the character, which seems to be the case as the movie will likely be a direct adaptation of Woman of Tomorrow. Now, I have not read the comic yet as I'm doing everything possible to avoid even potential spoilers, but I've seen nothing but praise for this. And just the art style alone tells it all. Man, the way the illustrations are done are just so magical. I can look at these images all day analyzing the way the colors pop. It really highlights how alien Supergirl must feel. Turning Supergirl's story into a space opera fits the character so perfectly. What makes something like Star Wars so great is that it uses these epic set pieces and galactic conflicts as a means to explore deep character arcs. I don't necessarily want Supergirl to be stopping some empire or something, but seeing her fly around the galaxy reflecting on her life would be such a nice vibe. If the film can have a similar art style and emotional depth to the comic, then you'll all be glazing it for the next couple centuries. On top of this, some of the production details we already know about the film give me a lot of confidence. While I wasn't the biggest fan of House of the Dragon, young Rhaenyra was easily my favorite aspect of the show. I thought Millie Alcock killed the role. The whole aspect of Rhaenyra struggling between her duty and her desires was such an interesting angle. I really disliked how they did the time jump because it just seemed like a huge jump for the character. Where have we seen that before? Like, I can totally see Rhaenyra becoming jaded in this timeline, but I wanted to continue seeing her younger version struggling with her stuff. The time jump just makes these characters feel too different. I'm getting off topic here, but the point is that I thought Millie Alcock did a really good job in the role, and from what we saw in Superman, I'm very excited to see how she'll portray the character. Lastly, I have a lot of faith in the director. Now, I'm not super familiar with Craig GSP's work. I guess he directed I, Tonya and $1 Million Arm. Oh, and he directed that one Left vs. Right Twix commercial way back in the day.
Twix, try both and pick a side.
But most notably to me, he directed Cruella. Now, in a recent video, I sang my praises about that film. I was especially a big fan of the cinematography and the editing. The way they depicted Cruella's descent into madness was super interesting. I thought it was a great angle to explore a previously one-dimensional character. The film is also just a lot of fun as it plays around with the fashion scene of 1970s London and how that intersects with Cruella as a character. Obviously, Cruella is very different than Supergirl. I do not want the tone of Supergirl to be anything like Cruella, but if they can use the same skills to showcase an equally engaging character study, then the movie is set.
How did you do that?
I'm Supergirl.
Look, I may be a simp for Kara Zor-El, but there are a lot of reasons I'm really excited for her film next year. I think Millie Alcock is a great actress. I'm interested in seeing Lobo and potential Superman tie-ins. I really like the director's work in Cruella. And with Woman of Tomorrow being the blueprint for the film, I honestly think this has the potential to be one of the best comic book films ever made, as the comic has a great art style and, more importantly, a deeply emotional journey. Outside of Project Hail Mary, I personally can't see any other film being better unless they really lock in. I was interested in seeing Supergirl before Superman released, but after that movie portrayed Clark so well, now I'm really excited for Supergirl. It's pretty funny how a lot of people have complained about Superman needing to be more complex or darker when that character has been here the entire time. I seriously think the Supergirl film can finally showcase why the character is so great and not just a carbon copy of Superman. I hope all my early glaze is actually fulfilled, because if the movie is trash, then I'm gonna look like such a moron.
Loser.
But what are your thoughts on all this? And what film are you most excited for? Let me know down below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.